北京天安门，天安门上太阳升。
The president too, and the president's banker in his three-piece suit. The big fat general and all of his troops. The truth of the matter is everybody poops.
Hello everybody, Leapin' Leppin here. How are you guys doing? I'm doing just fine. Like my new poker. Anyway, today we do have another gun review. This here is the classic SKS, but not just any type of SKS. No, this is not the Russian one. This is the Chinese one, also known as the Type 56. It's very similar to the Russian SKS. In fact, many of them were under development under Russian eyes. If you know anything about the SKS, it is chambered in 7.62 by 39, which is the same chambering as the AK-47, the Wasser 1063, others like that, 7.62 by 39. The weight of this rifle is about 8.5 pounds. The length is around 40 inches. And the barrel length is 20 inches. It is a short stroke gas piston tilting bolt self-loading. And its semi-automatic fire is about 35 to 40 rounds per minute. And the muzzle velocity is around 2,400 feet per second, give or take. The effective range without a scope, this one has a scope, is around 440 yards. It takes a 10-round stripper clip. I don't have the stripper clip, but here's one that looks like it. And it's an internal box magazine. Okay. I need to go on a little rant. People get confused about clips and magazines. Okay? This here, this is an internal magazine. In fact, let me zoom in. Zoomy, zoom, zoom. This is a magazine. You use a clip to feed the magazine. Basic 101 gun science. It does have the hooded front post sight right here. Tangent notch right here. Rear sighted, graduated from 100 to 1,000 meters, and it is. I'll show you that here in a short. Now, the SKS, it was developed by a man named
Сергей Гаврилович Симонов.
Born 9th of April, 1894, and died May of 1986. Boy, he lived a long life. Was a Soviet weapons designer. He is considered one of the fathers of the modern quote-unquote assault rifle. In this configuration, this is considered a sporting rifle because it does not have the bayonet. I'll get to that later. Mostly known for the... oh, dear heavens.
Самозарядный карабин системы Симонова.
1945, self-loading carbine, Simonov's system, or SKS carbine. He also pioneered the assault and semi-automatic rifle field in the 1920s and 30s, mostly under supervision of
Владимир Григорьевич Федоров.
and
Fyodor Vasilievich Tokarev.
his early work preceded both the M1 Garand of 1933 and later the M1 Carbine, AK-47, and M16 series. Born in the year of our Lord 1894 in Fedotovo, Simonov began work in a foundry immediately after completing his elementary school studies. By the end of World War I, after completing a basic technician's course of instruction, he began working on pioneering automatic rifle design by Vladimir, oh heavens, yeah, here's his name.
Владимир Григорьевич Федоров.
The Fedorov Avtomat. Here's what one of those look like. ugly, but hey. After the Russian Revolution, Simonov continued further at the Moscow Polytechnic Institute, graduating in 1924 to work at Russia's giant Tula arsenal. I've had some Tula arsenal firearms of the past, and they're pretty good. By 1926, he had become a quality control inspector at Tula, and by 1927, he has been promoted into the Soviet Design and Development Department, where he worked directly under Fyodorov. The Simonov AVS-36, pictured here, which entered service in the 1930s, would see service in the early part of World War II up to around 1940 or so, where it was replaced by other semi-automatic designs. During World War II, Simonov designed some firearms of his own, a submachine gun, which did not enter production, and a self-loading anti-tank rifle, the 14.5 by 114 millimeter PTRS. Which went on to form the basis in a scaled-down form of the SKS. I'm going to try to overlay a PTRS below here. Alright, you can see how common they look together. The bolt's almost the same. The carrier, everything. This is just a smaller version of that, and much improved. An earlier semi-automatic rifle, the AVS-36, was hindered by official resistance on using the powerful 7.62x54mm R. That's what the Mosin Nagant uses, for those who don't know. And the Druganovs, the PTLs, stuff like that. Which at this point was at that point standard amongst Russian rifles. Unfortunately, as has been demonstrated with the Fedor Tokarev's SVT-40, the rim of the 7.62x54R was determined to be Okay, let me try this again. Unfortunately, as he has been demonstrated with the Fedor Tokarov's SVT-40, the rim of the 7.62x54R was detrimental to the rapid, reliable function of a semi-automatic rifle. By 1943, advances in thinking and confirmed data showed engagements took place between 100 to 300 meters, led to the adoption of the shorter, less powerful round, the 7.62x39 M1943, also known as 7.62 Soviet or 7.62 Short, to differentiate it from several other rounds in 7.62mm caliber. Field trials of the new rifle proved the weapon, and in 1944, a pre-production run of the SKS went to the Belarusian offensive for battlefield trials. After some tweaking, it was officially adopted and designated 7.62. Here's this.
Самоцарядний карабин в системе Симонова образец 1945.
Also translated as 7.62 self-loading carbine system Simonov, model year 1945, or SKS 45, and chosen as the ideal replacement for the SBT 40. Sergei looks like he had some other projects like the AG 043, pictured here, the AVS 36, pictured here again, the AKS 53, the AKS 91, the AO 35 prototype assault rifle, which was chambered in 545 by 39, and the AO 63 assault rifle, also chambered in 545 by 39. He's won several honors and awards. He was Hero of Socialist Labor in 1954, 3 Orders of Lenin, Order of the October Revolution, Order of Kuznetsov, 2nd class, Order of the Red Star, Order of the Patriotic War, 1st class, Order of the Red Banner Labrador, Order of the Red Banner of Labor, twice, Honored Inventor of the RSFSR, I don't know what that is, Medal in in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the birth of Vladimir Lenin, the Stalin Prize, twice, 1942 and 49. Boy, for communists, they really don't use small letters, do they? Because they all think they're fucking geniuses. Anyway, so that was Sergei Gavrilovich Simonov, or here's the Google translation of it.
Сергей Гаврилович Симонов.
In fact, a few years after the SKS was brought into service in 1949, it was rendered obsolete for the Soviet military by the new AK-47. Within 4 years, this thing was already obsolete. Amazing. And here's why I think why. One, the AK is probably slightly more reliable than this. Slightly. But also, it has a 30-round banana magazine on it. And has a gas piston in this area here to throw the bolt back and forward. I got a washer tin I'll do a video on. Hopefully before the Illinois Communist Party decides to pass HB 5855. The SKS was used by Soviet troops and Hungarian partisans alike during the 1956 Hungarian Revolution. Thereafter, while the SKS was retained for various auxiliary duties, probably like security patrols, stuff like that, it ceased to have any real military significance in the Soviet Union. However, it found a longer second life in the service of various Soviet-aligned nations, in particular, the People's Republic of China. The Chinese state-manufactured SKS for decades after production had ceased in the Soviet Union, mainly to arm its vast military reserves and militia forces. The SKS was also in general issue with regular units of the People's Liberation Army for 30 years as a Type 56 carbine. They used these suckers for 30 years. This one was probably used for 30 years. PLA forces, armed primarily with Type 56 carbines, fought Soviet troops armed primarily with the AK-47s during the Sino-Soviet border conflict. That had to be embarrassing. Because from what I understand, they pretty much won that, I guess. 7-month undeclared military conflict between the Soviet Union and China. Oh, indecisive, so they have no idea who won. Imagine you being a Soviet guy on the battlefield back then. You got your AK-47 and they are coming after you with SKSs. That had to be either a wet dream come true for you or a freaking nightmare. Prior to adopting domestic AK-47 derivatives, a number of non-aligned nations, such as Egypt and Yugoslavia, adopted the SKS as standard army service rifle. The Egyptian army used the SKS extensively during the Suez Crisis, and a number were captured and evaluated by Western intelligence agencies in the aftermath of the conflict. So, basically, after the conflict, the West, probably Britain, US, stuff like that, they got their hands on this like, ooh, this is neat, but it's so primitive. But it works. Beginning in the 1960s, vast quantities of obsolete and redundant SKS carbines from military reserve stocks were donated by the Soviet Union and People's Republic of China to left-wing guerrilla movements around the world. Vietnam comes to mind with this. The SKS found particular favor in southern Africa, where it was used by a number of surging armies fighting to overthrow colonial rule. Yada, yada, yada. In fact, I bet you, if there's any veterans of the Afghan war, the war in Afghanistan, I bet you came across some of these. I bet you. Of course, they have all the variants. This here's a Type 56. They have them for the honor guard mostly, but not all chrome metal parts. Does not generally have the lighter colored stock as a Soviet honor guard variant. So, this SKS, was bought by my father back in the early 2000s. It does not have the bayonet on it. At that time when these were being imported, you could not have the bayonet on there, because that was considered a part of the assault weapons ban of 1994. You couldn't have a 30-round magazine. You couldn't have this, and this, and this. Basically, the same thing that Illinois is trying to push, except Illinois wants registration. And the same thing that California has pushed. But anyway. So you could import these without the bayonet. Now myself, I don't care if it has the bayonet or not, just as long as it's functional, and this one is very functional. In fact, there's a story behind this one. When my father got this, he later on put a 30-round magazine on here. It did not work. The reason is the tolerances were just not right for it. And it really got, truthfully, annoying to keep reloading a 30-round magazine with stripper clips. Because stripper clips for these come on with 10 rounds. So you'd have to use 3 stripper clips. And sometimes they wouldn't even work that way. So I took this home, and I took the magazine off of here. And this is really super easy to disassemble. Super easy. And I replaced the 30-round magazine with the original box magazine on there. And ever since then, it has had no flaws at all. I love the wood on it. It's very basic. It's not Russian quality. The Russian ones are really pretty. And they function fine. But that's pretty good quality. The Yugoslavian ones are downright ugly with their stocks, but they work perfectly. As long as the seal for the grenade launcher doesn't break. Then you'll have plenty of time, plenty of fun, yada yada yada. Let's get a little bit closer look at this. Alright, here's a close-up shot of the SKS. This has the Fabulous Maker FM4258 scope on it. I personally don't like it, but that's just me. Here is your graduated sight from 100 meters to 1,000 meters. There's your front post sight with the hood. Here is without the bayonet. Now, in fact, Amazon does sell bipods for these, which is kind of nice. That actually hook onto that bayonet lug. Chamber. And it looks like I need to clean it just a little bit more, which I will. There's your bore. Right there. Little bit dusty, but it'll come out. Yeah, I'm not big on the scope, but I do like that below you do get the, you can kind of see, maybe not. Here, let me turn off this light. You can still see the hooded sight in the front and the rear sight in the back if you look underneath the scope. Now, if you're ever needing to close a bolt on these, it's a real simple process. You bring your bolt back. I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Bring your bolt back just a little. You need to press on that piece of metal right there where that bolt's sitting on. Right there. Ooh, this might not work. Nope. And, you know what? Hang on. You get it over it, then just release the bolt. The box magazine does come out. So you can dump your rounds out, just like that. Gas system that throws that back. It's really interesting. And yeah, it's overall, it's one of my favorite rifles that I ever shot. I haven't shot with the scope because, like I said, I don't like the scope. But it's a good rifle nonetheless. It's like, oh yes, also it has this little compartment in the back for a cleaning kit that would have came with it. So, and yes, it's all been oiled. I think that's a custom top deal on there. I'd rather have an original, but that's just me. Let's look at some of the markings. Here's some Chinese markings. Number SKS 762 by 39, made in China by Norinco. If it looks a little oily, that's because it is. There's another mark right there. There's a number that correlates with that and that, so it's all number matching, except for the bayonet. But like I said, the ATF got rid of those during the assault weapons ban. That's when my father got this. Matching magazine plate. Generally, these came pretty much number match, unlike the Mosin Nagants, which I have one. Actually, I got two of them. But anyway, yes, the mighty SKS. Love the SKS, one of my favorite rifles. But anyway, this has been Leapin' Lippin'. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And if you do subscribe, make sure to ring that notification bell to get notifications whenever I upload a new video. Yes. It's been Leapin' Lippin'. I'll see y'all in the next video.